Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
Good night and welcome to the People's Business, the first for 2024. I'm your host, Wendy Burke, and tonight we'll be discussing road safety, ride to stay alive. Joining me tonight, I have Mr. Roland Lowe, the president of the Barbados Road Safety Association, Mr. Erskine Cumberbatch, the Public Relations Officer of the Barbados Road Safety Association, Mr. Michael Brathwaite, the Managing Director of MakeItSafe, a recently launched organization, and we will be joined by Mr. Kevin Wickham, who is the Vice President of the Black Night Bikers Club. Good night to you, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Hi, good night.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
We will return in a moment with the People's Business. Welcome back to the People's Business Live. Now, in terms of showing you what is going on with the roads, etc., I want for you, Roland, to be the first person that I begin with. When you hear about road safety and riding to stay alive, what does it signify to you?
Hi, again, Wendy, thank you for having me. Well, when it comes to road safety and riding to stay alive, what comes to mind is actually taking steps to be careful and be safe while you're on the road. Whether it be riding a bike or motorcycle, being a bicyclist, traveling in a car, or any other way in which you're using the road, even as a pedestrian, taking all the steps and measures that you can think of so as to make sure that you are safe while you are traveling on the roads.
Okay, and for you, Erskine, does it signify the same?
I agree. It's all safety while it's out there on the roads.
Okay, and for our new Make It Safe organization, Mr. Michael Brathwaite, your organization, what does road safety mean for you all?
Road safety to us means that instead of having different organizations preaching the same song, that we all come together and not only preach what we need to preach, but also ensure that proper training is administered, and when situations occur where there's particular incidents at certain places, that we all look at it collectively and make the necessary adjustments to improve the area.
Okay, now in terms of stats, Roland, and the inclusion of bikers, Kevin is going to join us soon. What for you, or because I don't want to lay blame, but what are your main concerns about bikers, whether it be bicyclists or motorbikes, in terms of what happens? We've had a few unfortunate deaths from that community, but for you, what are some of the main concerns?
Well, Wendy, again, one of the main concerns is safety. I believe that persons who ride motorcycles or traveling on even using bicycles, they are more vulnerable than persons who are riding in a car or riding a bus per se. So one of the first things would be to look at personal safety. Do the things that are necessary to ensure that you yourself are safe, whether it be using the helmet, being careful when you're moving through traffic because you're small, so you can move between the cars and stuff on the road. But you need to be careful when you're looking to move from one point to the other. And one of the other things that is of concern when it comes to even in relation to that point will be being careful and taking the necessary steps when you are moving from behind one vehicle to the next. Also, the speed at which you travel, and then one of the main things, and I know we'll probably get to that, is the using or the practicing of stunts on the public road. That is one of the main concerns. And I would like to talk to Mr. Kevin, I can't get the
Wickham is
last
his name, yes.
name, Wickham. Well, I just want to find out, because again, education is the key. I want to know if he has some insight in relation to why this is being done, why this is the practice for persons who ride motorcycles. I mean, it might not be members of his organization, but he has particular insight into maybe the thrill and the excitement of riding a bike, and then he can inform us so that we can make better decisions relative to motorcyclists using the road, and even providing areas for them where they can practice these stunts.
Okay, and let's remember that it's not everyone who does this, so we can't paint them all with the same brush. And I'm glad you said you want to find out as opposed to being accusing. Now, Mr. Cumberbatch, when we were initially speaking, you spoke to the loud noise from these bikes, and I believe it is the noise which alerts other road users that a cyclist is there. But I'm not sure if you gentlemen are aware that there are a lot of people who, because some bikers stunt, have a kind of animosity toward all bikers and believes that, you know, some of them shouldn't be on the roads with these powerful motorbikes that are making all of this noise. What's your take on that, Mr. Cumberbatch?
My looking at it is that it does not only allows you, who's the driver of a vehicle, that the presence of a motorcycle is coming. It sometimes can distract you, or in some cases, whilst you are driving and you hear it suddenly, you might either pull to your left or right. That could be one of the problems that we experience. And the speed that they do make it with whilst going between 2 or 3 vehicles. I think one of our biggest problems with the motorcycles is that we, the drivers, sometimes don't give them enough room to do what they're doing. I'm not saying that all drivers are on the road doing nonsense. Some ride pretty good. Even some of the ones that you hear with the loud noise, they're riding motorcycles good. But the problem is with the drivers sometimes who have this negative thing about cyclists. They don't like to move over and let them pass. They see them coming and they feel, well, okay, doesn't matter by motorcyclists doing nonsense or bicyclists, but take it. Bicyclists do the same thing too. I know we've got some bicycles on the road that are going on faster than some of the original motorcycles.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yes, it's true, because with the electric bikes now, we're a bit speedier. Do you have concerns about them, Mr. Brathwaite?
Well, I initially had concerns with the amount of noise they made, but speaking to the motorcycle unions, they say they make them make more noise so people can hear them coming. My view is if they were properly lit and they wore the correct reflective strips or decals on their bodies and ride with the lights on, then they will be easily spotted.
Okay, and I'm glad you raised that, because here it is, we have the same situation with bicyclists. For example, the guys who train early on mornings, they have their flashing red, they have reflectors, their shorts and their shirts, depending on the hour they're riding at, do reflect the light that hits on them. And they have the beacon at front that flashes to let you know it's a bike that goes really quickly. Many of them are still struck off, legs broken. We've even had instances where a number of them would have passed away. And Mr. Lowe can speak to that, because your organization works alongside some of the others where you place the crosses and ask for people to be a bit more caring towards cyclists on the road. We've had them do ad campaigns asking other road users to recognize that they too are meant to be there. I mean, bicycles are still licensed. Most people who come on the road do license them.
Well, Wendy, in relation to that, one of our members, the second vice president, he is a part of the Cycling Association, and I wish for him to be here so that he can give his particular insight into it. But measures have been taken, as we said. There are signs that were erected relative to the distance that you should give all cyclists and even all other vehicles of 1.5 meters when you're traveling behind them. So what I believe it is just a matter of persons being cognizant of the rules and following the rules. A bicyclist is a person who is there, who has just as much right to be on the road as you. So you have to give them the relevant or due respect and drive with due care and attention, and just be courteous. Sometimes that's all that is needed. Just to be courteous and considerate of the other persons who are using the road.
And I'm glad you mentioned courteous and considerate, because everyone is meant to be on the road, even the pedestrians, in terms of road usage. Now, Mr. Brathwaite, since the public of Barbados might not know that much about your organization and you've recently been formed, yes, you mentioned working in tandem with all of the others, but what is the main mandate of your organization in terms of really and truly making it safe?
Our main mandate is training, and training of driving instructors, motorists, training of the key workers that actually implement the rules of the road and things like that. Because everyone appears to be on a different page, or everyone has a different interpretation of standards. So there's no actual standard in Barbados for driving, riding, or anything like that. So it's just like, well, I think it works like this, so that's the way it's going to go. So
Okay.
what we're looking at is bringing everything all under one umbrella.
Okay. Now, Erskine, I want you to weigh in on this one in terms of him saying there's no standard. Isn't there a booklet that MTW provides in terms of how you are supposed to use the road while driving and instructions for learners, etc.?
Yes, it is. There's the highway code. There are also other avenues. The transport authority has rules and regulations to govern all public service vehicles. That can also be found in the Road Traffic Act and the regulation. Now, when Mr. Brathwaite is going to tell us that we need to come under one umbrella, and it seems to be what he is saying, that we are teaching something other than what is, that is not true. Under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act 1981, 45 section 65.3 tells you clearly that you must satisfy the person conducting the test in accordance with that law so that you can pass that test. It is that when you pass that exam, we come out here and we make shortcuts. It is that we forget what to do. We are in a hurry now and we do a whole heap of nonsense. But I do believe that they're being trained properly. That is why internationally you could go to America and drive with a Barbados license. Other Caribbean countries, you can't do it. And I do believe that we are on a good footing. It is just that we have some careless drivers in between us.
Okay, I see you smiling, Roland.
Well, just to piggyback off of what Mr. Cumberbatch said, there are rules and regulations in place. The law is there, and as he said, it's just a matter of persons knowing the laws. Sometimes persons might forget, as he said, they might not forget. But I believe that some people do forget some of the rules and regulations, because there are lots of rules and regulations. If you go, as you said, it's 1981, and there's been amendments and changes all the way up to 2018. So there are lots of changes that exist. What needs to happen is that persons need to just be cognizant of the rules and follow the rules of the road.
Let's talk about the staying alive part, because defensive driving, Erskine and Mr. Michael Brathwaite, we have been talking about that for some time. But Are we really driving defensively? Are we really putting the needs and concerns of the person who's ahead of us on the road, or who's on that motorcycle, or who's on that bicycle? Are we concerned about them first?
Not all of us. Most drivers just want to get from point A to point B, and they don't think about the other. I teach all of my pupils, when you are out there, between 15 and 20 seconds, your eyes are supposed to be flashing into those rearview mirrors. You've got to see all around you, whatever is going on. And I think the problem here is that we're in a hurry. We want to get where we're going, and we're not thinking of the other person. I always tell people, think not only of yourself as a driver, think of the other persons. Put yourself in their position so that you wouldn't have these problems. And a lot of these minor accidents, even serious accidents, could have been avoided. I think we, the drivers, if we would focus on what we're doing, forget the cell phone, tell the person who's going to call you, I'm going to work or I'm going this place, call me later. But the moment that you get distracted by the slightest thing, you're in trouble.
Okay. Can we have you weigh in quickly, Mr. Brathwaite, before we go to break?
Well, what I would say is we're in agreement with what Mr. Cumberbatch said. I also think that the onus is on the riders themselves to avoid riding in the blind spots of cars and trucks. And if possible, when they're slowing down to stop, flash their brake lights a couple of times to ensure that other people have actually seen what they're doing. And most importantly, they need to have an escape route just in case a motorist doesn't see them or decides to violate their right of way.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take your calls here, 228-5562, 228-5563. Hopefully by then we'll get Mr. Wickham of the Black Knight Riders to join with us, to join in our discussion tonight. The People's Business will be back. And we're back. Now, I do have to apologize for Mr. Wickham. He's having some technical difficulties on his end and will unfortunately not be able to join us. But we do thank the Black Knights Bikers Club for being willing to join us in our discussion tonight. Let's go to the phone lines, gentlemen. We have a caller. Good night to you. Good evening. Go right ahead with your question. Do not listen to your television, just talk to your telephone. Okay, I guess that person didn't come in. Now, before we left, Mr. Brathwaite was talking about not getting on the blind spot of the bikers. What if it's a situation where the biker is at the top of the line in terms of being in his lane or her lane, because we do have female bikers as well as bicyclists. What if they're there and somebody decides, okay, I need to get ahead of you and jam bust you, what have you?
What I would say is let them go. I mean, the only person that's going to be at risk is you, the rider. And 2.5
Simple.
tons of vehicle versus someone that's on a bike or on a motorcycle, the heavier metal's going to win.
Okay.
So if they have to go, just get
Let
out
them
of their
go.
way.
Okay,
Let
we
them
have a
go.
call. Good night to you. Good evening to you. Kindly don't listen to your television, just listen to the telephone and ask your question when you call, ladies and gentlemen. 228-5562, 228-5563. Okay, I
Right.
want to, hello?
Yes, Wendy. Relative to what Mr. Blackman just said, and in terms of just let them go, in terms of your personal safety, then yeah, just let them go. But that's a bias that I don't think that's a good precedent to set. Everyone has a right to be on the road. We may believe that some motorcyclists do things that we might not agree with, but that's not all of the cyclists. What needs to be said is that persons need to have respect for everyone on the road. If a cyclist is at the top of the line, then he's at the top of the line. You don't just zoom past someone just like that because you're putting someone's life in danger. So I don't think that that's the precedent that we want to set. For personal safety, if you can't avoid it, then you should move, yes. But I don't want the public to think that they can just do that to cyclists. Everyone
Okay.
has a right to be on the road.
Because remember, our post lady or postman also ride cycles or bicycles. Then we also have all of our delivery men or couriers, the messengers from various government departments. Some of them ride cycles as well. So there's so many different jobs that are on cycles. It's not just a matter of people doing it for fun or being out there riding in the pack or the stunting, which we spoke to earlier. It goes beyond that. There are people who use this as a means to do their job. Does it mean that because you're driving something that's bigger and mightier that you must hinder them from using the road?
It doesn't necessarily mean that the cyclist has to get out of the way every time they see a large vehicle. What I mean is, if something doesn't look safe, don't put yourself in that situation. I mean, a common policy that I keep hearing in Barbados is, I have insurance. So if you run into the back of me, I'm correct. Not check my mirrors and if I see a problem occurring, ease forward to avoid the collision. I mean, we have to start thinking totally different because what we're doing isn't actually working.
Okay, do you
Madam
agree,
Moderator,
Erskine, that is not working?
I would say that if you are on the road driving, you are driving a car, a van, a truck, whatever, the rear view mirror is important. If you see a cyclist coming through, put yourself in his position. He wants to get ahead because he has a smaller bike, a smaller vehicle, and he got it for that reason so he can get ahead. Allow him to go. Whenever I see them, if they're on my left or right, I shift accordingly and allow them to go. Because I know he or she wants to go where they want to go. I want to get to. The only problem here is that I have to wait longer than them. So we need to use discretion. But in the meantime, I'm not telling you bicyclists and motorcyclists to bore and force you because someone could stop to open the door. And if it's a passenger, sometimes they don't look. We must also speak to those persons too because safety is the most important thing. We still have to remember. The other thing here is that Kevin is very versed in this whole atmosphere. I would appreciate if he's listening, he's watching television, let him phone in and make an input in this avenue. He's very
Yes.
important.
He very much is, but unfortunately, because of the technical difficulties,
Yeah.
he's not here. I'm hoping that maybe we can continue this and we definitely will have them in place. Now, the last time that they were on a program with me and they were speaking to, okay, we'll get back to the dangers on the road. There's a call on the line. Good evening to you.
Yeah, good night, Wendy, to you on your panel.
Go right ahead, sir. Good night to you.
I have a simple question for the panel. What's wrong with taking the breathalyzer test?
Okay, he wants to know what's wrong with taking the breathalyzer test. I believe you spoke to that, or one of your members spoke to that today, Mr. Brathwaite.
Yes, one of my members, John Herbert, spoke about that today. That is a question for the Commissioner of the Police because I am not sure why it has not been implemented or what the holdup is. So that's something that we would have to take up with them because I personally don't know the answer to that.
Okay, but I believe Roland Lowe has been, and his organization have also been advocating for it.
I
So
think I
they
think I
have,
can answer that on behalf of the
Okay, go right ahead, Erskine.
the safety. Let things go to Parliament, and then they have to be ratified and so on. It is still going through the process. Yes, the wheels grind slowly, but it is coming. But in the meantime, I want all of us to ask the question: what statistics do we have that these drunken drivers or those persons who are under the influence cause all of these accidents? Do we have the stats? In the meantime, what we should be telling ourselves is to have a designated driver. Try not to drink this alcohol and drive. And if you're going to drink, sleep in the vehicle and then go. But
I
we are
agree
trying
with
to
you.
force.
I
We are
agree
trying to
with you.
force. We're trying to force government's hand. It is going to come. Let take time, and it will get here.
Sleep it off. We have a caller
Thank
on
you.
the line. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, I must commend you for the work they have been doing.
Could you speak
Anyway,
up, sir?
I must commend both organizations for the work they have been doing towards road safety in Barbados. But I must say that I would like to see a more holistic approach to road safety across the board. For example, we are basically talking about motorists or happens on the highways. But I would like to see something more done about pedestrians. I mean, pedestrians are put at great risk. Every day when I walk through town, for example, I see obstacles on the highway. I see broken grills. These are things that people get injured, but you don't normally hear about them. And one of the things I'm seeing cropping up now is that when you approach certain roundabouts or intersections, you're seeing people put in billboards, and these things are causing obstruction to motorists who are traveling along those. So these are things that I would like to see people sensitize against. And
Okay.
another something you all alluded to earlier was the electric bikes. I'm going to suggest to motorists to be very careful, because sometimes you think like you're at the intersection and you're thinking that you're seeing a bicycle. But by the time you look left and look right again, this person is on you because the person has a
Okay.
motorized bicycle, and you don't observe it until it's on you. It moves a little quicker than you think. So I would
Yes, it
suggest to all
does.
motorists to be very careful about this electric
Okay.
bicycles. There can be a danger within themselves.
All right, thank you so much. All right, gentlemen, you have 2 questions to respond to. He's talking about the pedestrians, and he's also has some other concerns for us. Roland,
relative to the pedestrians, I think it follows on from what we were talking about earlier relative to bigger vehicles on the road. There is a hierarchy relative to responsibility, personal responsibility, and responsibility for others. Bigger and heavier vehicles, you have a greater responsibility because you can do the most damage on the road. So you
Okay.
have to look out for other persons on the road more so than a person have to look out for you. When it comes to pedestrians, you are the most vulnerable on the road, so you have to take a greater look at your own personal safety, whereas other persons have to look out for you more. So
Okay.
everybody has to look out for themselves and look out for each other.
He also spoke to the safety obstacles, Erskine, where he's talking about the broken grills and the other things that we're seeing cropping up here and there that will actually injure pedestrians.
Whenever I see them, I report them, and I can call the name Mr. Marshall at Eagle Hall Depot. I always fill him in on any poles I see looking anywhere falling. If I see potholes, if I see grills pumping up, everything I take pictures and I send them to Eagle Hall Depot, Richmond Depot, and somebody attends them. Not that it is going to be done the same time, but in a few days or so, action is taken, and we can do the same thing. If you pass and you see one cock up, maybe because of the water, you can stop, park your vehicle, and put it back in place. We don't have to wait on MTW to do it. I think we have to be more responsible. And you see those
Okay.
bicycles we talk about, with electric, those bicycles go too fast, and you miscalculate the speed of them.
Okay. We have a caller. Let's see if we can deal with them before we go to break. Good evening.
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
I would like to put a question to the panel. Those electric bicycles, if one of them hit my car, who would be responsible? I will listen to the everything.
Insurance. The insurance company. In this case where the bicycle hits your car or your car hit a bicycle, the insurance companies will deal with that. Just report it to the insurance. You can report it to the police if someone is injured. You can call the police and let them come to the scene, but you can take pictures of it with your phone, go to the nearest police station, but call your insurance company. I know some people get struck with cars, with bicycles. The cars get damaged. Guys jump up on the motorcycle or bicycle and gone. But see wherever possible, if you can get camera footage, that is why you should buy a dash cam.
But that also happens in the reverse as well, does it not, Erskine?
Yes.
That the car
Yes, it
hits
does.
the... Oh, okay. I just want to make
My
that clear.
vehicle got hit in the car park. I don't know who hit it. Before when it came back, the bumper all busted and it's twisted, and I don't know who did it.
So whose insurance is going to cover?
The insurance. No, you got to consult the insurance. Now, in a case like that, you know the pre-accident value. You didn't see who hit it. What are you going to do? Are you going to call the insurance to tell the insurance $500 to fix when your pre-accident value is $2,500? They're going to depreciate you next year, pay more insurance, and your vehicle value is down.
Okay, but whose does the motorized bicycle also have to have insurance cover because it has a motor?
He should, but we how many do you know any bicyclists that would insure the bicycle? He's like a pedestrian now, and he's now classified as traffic, and that's the ticklish one.
It very much is. I guess we'll have to ask somebody in the insurance organization.
This is where the legal advice comes in. Now, if a bicyclist hit your vehicle, then you call the police and get them deal with it. Because what's going to happen, minor accidents like that, the insurance company most likely will have to deal with it. They will get their lawyers to investigate it and see what good could come out of Nazareth. Hope the guys don't run, because that is one of the most worst things that could ever happen to you when a guy hit you and run off. We've got one already tonight.
Yes. All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss more about riding to stay alive. And we're back. If you're now joining us, I'm talking with Mr. Roland Lowe, the president of the Barbados Association, Mr. Erskine Cumberbatch, the PRO for that organization, and Mr. Michael Brathwaite, the managing director for MakeItSafe. Now, gentlemen, we have a caller on the line, so we'll deal with that, and then we'll get back to some other issues we want to touch on. Good night to you. Go right ahead with your question.
Yes, good night, ma'am. I'm enjoying your program very much. I have one thing to say. I am of the opinion that many of the motorists in Barbados drive the way they do because when there's an accident involved and it involves like the death of a person, very often the person who caused the problem walks away with just a slap on the wrist. I believe that driving instructors do a good job in teaching their students, but very often after they get their license, they seem to be more concerned about getting where they want to go than thinking about other people on the road. And when they realize that the matter goes to court and hardly anything happens to them, and I know two people in that situation, very often you wonder, well, what's the point? They go, they cause an accident, and then nothing really happens, or very little happens to them. I don't know what you think about this.
Okay. Mr. Brathwaite, do you have any concerns about this? He's touching on the area of vehicular manslaughter and what for him seems to be like a slap on the wrist in terms of punishment.
Well, compared to other places in the world, we have got a kind of mild way of dealing with vehicular deaths. There's an incident which was brought to our attention where a child was killed by an off-route ZR who picked her up and took her to the hospital. And what occurred was they're still waiting for a police statement to be taken correctly from June last year. And I think there's a breakdown between different agencies. It just seems that something is getting lost in translation, or how can I put it? The agencies aren't interacting correctly. That's what it seems like. And once the agencies start to interact correctly, then nothing won't drop through any of the holes.
Okay. Erskine seems to want to weigh in here.
Yeah, I can tend to agree with Mr. Brathwaite, but let me explain something to the public. The police, relative to that report, is only $50 they got to pay for it. But the thing is not the $50. Over 60 or 70,000 accidents that the police have to deal with per year, and they are short-staffed. It is a very difficult thing. What I think is that the lawyers from both sides of the accident, both insurances, can deal with these things and get them back out there in a hurry. That is why I was saying earlier that the insurance companies need to step up to the plate and do what they have to do, because they're going to be waiting for a police report for years. And because of the amount of accidents that they have to deal with, that is one of the problems. I do believe that we, as motorists, have to police ourselves. Stop waiting for a police, traffic warden, whatever out there. Police yourself. And if you have to cut your nose to spoil your features, do it. A guy is doing wrong, back up. Don't talk no nonsense about you got insurance. When you get the insurance, you depreciate.
Roland, you've worn that other cap before.
Well, indeed, Wendy. And one of the things I want to say first is that I want to offer my sincere sympathies to the mother of that child. And again, I am a person who tends to be a bit sensitive to these things. I've lost a couple of friends to road fatalities. And as I said, I've been a member of the police organization. What I can say is that initially it was not a fatality, so the report from the police would not reflect that. And we have to be mindful of that as well. When it comes to the punishments, as Michael was, I guess, playing Mockingbird earlier relative to what I've been calling for repeatedly, is that we need to have everyone who is concerned, all the stakeholders who have a vested interest in the idea of road safety to come together. Then we can then come together and we can have a stronger voice, which is reflective of insights from all these different areas. We want the insurance companies to be a part of the Barbados Road Safety Association. We want the public service vehicles to have a representative who's present at meetings of the Barbados Road Safety Association. We want persons from the police force. We want persons from the ambulance services. We want a person from the emergency services relative to the fire service. We need someone from government who's present at these meetings, and we need to have an ear when it comes to speaking to government relative to the concerns of citizens, because it's not just the Barbados Road Safety Association saying these things. As you can hear from the calls, these are concerns that the public has. So we need to come together, have a unified voice so that we can address these problems and these issues properly.
All righty. We have a caller. Good night to you. Go right ahead with your question.
Good evening. Calling to find out in relation to the bright lights that people have on their car. You can't see at night as MTW or the police signalling with these lights.
Okay, ma'am, can you repeat for me and speak a bit louder?
I'm asking about the illegal lights that people have on the cars that you can't see at night when you're driving the bright light. Is MTW able to be doing anything about them?
Okay, she's asking if
Please.
MTW is going to be doing anything about the bright LED lights that we now see on the vehicles which are impeding other motorists at night.
Madam Chair, when a vehicle goes for inspection, everything is examined. What happens is that you are not supposed to have these bright lights, but when the guys get back out from passing inspection, they then fit these bright lights in the vehicle. It is disturbing, especially early in the morning between 5 and 6 o'clock, when you see those, especially the public service vehicles coming to you with 4 and 6 lights bright in your eyes. What I tell people is to look not at the lights, try to look to the left side of the road and focus yourself on the road that you have to travel on. They are dangerous, but MTW can't do anymore. The police cannot police them anymore because we don't have enough policemen. That is what I'm saying. We have to police ourselves. And if a policeman is coming in the opposite direction and you're going about your business, then he has to turn around, come back. By the time he gets back there, you're gone. And then he will take you to MTW. You carry in the vehicle, is examined. We find that the lights are the wrong strength. They change them and then get back on the road and put back in the lights again. And it is frustrating because we do not have the policing to deal with them. That
Okay.
is why we need those traffic inspectors again.
Do you have concerns about it as well, Michael?
Yes, I do, because sometimes I go walking in the morning and I find myself having to jump into bushes and things like that when they're coming, because not only are the lights bright, they're not angled correctly, so they cannot pick up anyone on the side of the road. So the lights are made, a lot of the lights are made for the European market,
Yes.
which actually looks in the opposite direction, which points to the opposite direction. So, with regards to NTW doing something about it, as Erskine correctly said, they take the lights up when they get there. In fact, I saw a vehicle go into NTW. They told them to strip off the lights, and I was kind of fascinated by it. By the time the guy got outside, the first place when I went down to Colmarock, the first place he went to was a tint shop. And then while they were tinting his vehicle, he was there taking the lights out of his trunk to obviously put them back on. So it's more about people actually taking responsibility for their actions.
Okay, and that's something that you would have spoken to as well, Roland, in terms of, us learning to be more of each other's keepers. But we have a caller on the line and we'll get back to that. Good evening to you. Go right ahead with your question. Good evening. Okay, seems we may have lost that caller. Okay, Roland, if we can talk about the being each other's keeper, because in terms of actually being in the vehicle, because we're talking about the motorcyclists and the bicyclists, but you also have to be responsible if you have a pillion rider on, if you have somebody in your bicycle bar, or if you have passengers in your back seats. You also have to make sure that they're doing the necessary and appropriate things while in that vehicle.
Correct, Wendy. Relative to persons who may be a paid rider on the motorcycle, everyone who is on that motorcycle should take responsibility for their own safety, and regulations state that you should be wearing a helmet in case that there's any accident or collision, then you're protected. Relative to cars and persons traveling in the cars, all the persons in the cars are supposed to be wearing their seatbelts. I think I mentioned it on Morning Barbados, the last time we spoke about the car that I saw with the children in the car and none of them wearing seatbelts. I mean, we have to be able to take responsibility for ourselves and we look out for the person, because I believe that the person who's traveling in your car is somebody that you care about. So you just have to say to them, well, put your seatbelt on because it's for your own safety. Going back to the idea of the lights, most of the cars now come with these lights installed. What can be done, or what I think that needs to be done in terms of looking out for other person, is to just dim your lights. Put your lights on dim when you are approaching an oncoming vehicle, when you are approaching pedestrians on the road, because you don't want that your lights affect them in a negative way. So just be mindful of other persons who are using the road.
Okay, then there are also those vehicles whose lights are too dim, or don't have enough lighting. For example, the large minibuses and so on. You assume that is something that is a small car coming at you, and there are twists and turns on certain roads where a lot of cyclists train on mornings, and when they take the corners when that large vehicle is oncoming, I mean, that's imminent danger.
As I said earlier, Wendy, in terms of the regulations and the law, the law speaks to the distance that the light should be able to be seen by or spot two, and it also, again, as I said, speaks to dimming your lights when you approach oncoming vehicles. If there is an issue relative to the lumens of the particular vehicle, as Erskine and Mr. Brathwaite said, motor transport authority cannot do everything, so we just ask persons to be responsible road users. If you know that you have an issue with your light, as Mr. Brathwaite said, you can go to Colorado or wherever he saw the person, and you can go to some shop and you can get new lights. I see these the lights being advertised all over Instagram, and there are places all over Barbados. Go to a respectable shop and you can check the regulations and get the exact lumens that your vehicle is supposed to carry and have the correct lights installed in your vehicle. Again, just be a responsible road user.
Okay, and that's what we're preaching in 2024, because we all want to ride to stay alive. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, gentlemen, we'll get from you what are some of your parting shots, what are some of the things your organizations are anticipating or want to do for 2024 in helping to keep all of us safe on the roads. The People's Business will be back in a bit. And the People's Business is back. Yes, we're talking about riding to stay alive, road safety. Now, I want to talk a bit. We were talking about stunting and the motorcyclists. But there's something that's been concerning me a lot. I'm not sure if it's concerning to other parents. And that is the large groups of young men who decide to stunt, whether it be on their BMXs, their mountain bikes, what have you, that they're riding. And they seem to choose roads which are very hilly, and they all decide to zoom into traffic en masse. There are about 7, 8, sometimes even more of them. And they zoom into traffic, going downhill, and proceed to stunt in front of oncoming vehicles. You're laughing, Erskine, because I guess you've seen it being out there on the road at all hours.
The problem here is that we encourage them, When we stand up next to the road and we see them coming, everybody's watching them like if it's crop over. So it's a showing off something. So you can show off who can do it better than who. The fella left hand touching the ground when he got the throttle pulling back and all of that. We encourage them to do it. But it is dangerous. Sometimes a lot of these guys are injured, but they keep going on and on. It is a dangerous stunt. And not only that, you're talking about that. You see the roller skates. And you see the one-wheel things that these guys go along so hard onto. All those are dangerous and you don't hear them. I think it's a dangerous situation, and it's not much the police can do about it. There's not much they can do. That is why I keep saying we got to police ourselves.
So you're saying that the skates and the scooters should not be in the midst of traffic?
They shouldn't be. You see, you watch it good. Some mornings you are driving, going along the street, and you see this sudden thing flash through between the vehicles, and it's a one wheel bike. I don't know what you call it. A guy standing on something that's fly through between you, and then you see skateboards on the highway. Only Saturday morning, I saw a guy going down from the same CBC heading towards Bussa, passing everybody. Like he had to be doing about 45 kilometers.
Okay. Roland, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Wendy. What I would say is, as I said, I wanted to be able to speak to Mr. Wickham just to pick his brain relative to the possible motivation for a person who's doing this. But what I can say is that according to the Road Traffic Amendment Regulations 2017, it is an offense to perform stunts on any public road or any other place in Barbados. So the persons who might be, and it speaks specifically to raising one wheel or removing one wheel off the road relative to motorcycles or bicycles. So these persons should know, hopefully, that they are committing an offense which the law speaks to. And as Erskine has said earlier, it is extremely dangerous. What I find in Barbados and from the job that I held previously is that sometimes we are a bit too reactionary. You need to take steps and put measures in place before something happens because some of these bikes are classified as heavy motorcycles. And we don't want a situation where one of these persons performing their stunts lands or just drops into somebody else's vehicle through the windscreen and injures someone or, God forbid, kills someone on the road while performing these stunts, which are illegal according to the law.
Okay, so we're looking at the stunting and how illegal it may be. Also, too, I believe that we should encourage more bicyclists to ensure that they have lighting, reflectors, etc. on their bicycles because we're seeing more and more people on the roads without them. And I've only in recent times seen about maybe 3 or 4 people still wearing the helmets. But I do remember that that was put into law about what, 2 years back? But people are again moving without them. Mr. Brathwaite?
I think, well, with regards to the helmets, some people say that they're uncomfortable, there are all sorts of things. Now, I encourage everyone to wear suitable protective equipment when they're riding because injuries, the kind of injuries you see when they fall, like you see when the skin gets burnt out down to the bone and things like that, and they just get up, say they're sick, people come and visit them, they worship. I've seen people worshiping the injuries, and
it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can see your bones.
The white flesh, yeah, you can.
Yeah, not only the white flesh, down to the bone. And he's saying, yeah, the guy that hit him has insurance. He hasn't got any. I said, well, why were you riding without insurance? He goes, oh, the bike isn't road legal. What do you mean the bike isn't road legal? Right? So a lot of these bikes are classified as, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cumberbatch and Mr. Lowe, they're classified as farm vehicles. And the guys are riding them on the road without plates, without insurance, and hoping for the best, because that's all it could be.
Yeah, it's not something that we want to encourage at any juncture, is it, Erskine or Roland?
No, they don't. We don't encourage it. I think it's a showing off thing. Think about it. It's just showing off. And I think what happens too is, okay, that is why I've been asking for an amendment to that act. If you want to ride a motorcycle, and I have a motorcycle, I have to put you on my policy in order for you to obtain a learner's permit. If you want to drive a car, a truck, a bus, you just go to the licensing with your ID card and obtain a learner's permit, having done the regulation test. That is why a lot of these guys out there ride about illegal, because the avenue for them to get a motorcycle license is not the same as it for the guy who goes for a car. And if that
so for you, it's too easy.
So yeah, so you see, so they just take a motorbike and ride it, because I can't get insurance, because you must have insurance to get motorbike permit, which I think is nonsensical. We can change that. You don't have to get insurance.
Wait a minute. Stick a pin. You're saying that I have to get it insured first, and then go for the license
to get the permit, to get a learner's permit. You understand? You must have insurance, of motorcycle insurance in your name, in order to obtain a learner's permit. But you don't have to do it to get a car, truck, or bus license or learner's permit. So that is why I think you
Interesting.
need a minute. Allow these guys to go and do the regulation test, get a learner's permit, and then come on the road. Otherwise, we're going to have the same problem over and over and over because they're hard to catch.
Okay, well, time is starting to run out on us, so I want to get from you, Roland, what are your main concerns or issues that you want to see addressed in 2024 to ensure that all of us can ride to stay alive and also be safe on our roads?
Well, Wendy, on an individual basis, I want persons to take more responsibility for their actions on the road, whether it be a driver of a car or a pedestrian on the road. Look out for your own safety, and remember there's a hierarchy of safety. The bigger you are, the more responsibility you have to other persons on the road. In terms of a corporate level, I want to see, as I said, a collaboration between all the persons who have a vested interest in road safety, persons relative from the insurance companies, the public service vehicles, as I said, all the relevant stakeholders. I want them to be a part of the Barbados Road Safety Association. Come have a seat, send your representatives so that we can have your particular
Okay.
perspective as part of the conversation.
All right, Mr. Brathwaite?
Okay, in relation to the cyclists and motorcyclists, I think it's best to give for cyclists to give yourself space and time and basically look for areas where you're going to get trapped in and give other motorists time to react to you and basically ride as though you're invisible. Now, whenever I say that, people look at me as though I'm crazy. What I mean by that is ride as though someone hasn't seen you. So always put yourself in a position that other motorists can see you.
Okay.
And the final thing is to know and follow the rules of the road.
All right. And you get the final shot, Erskine.
All I need for us drivers, use your indicators, pay attention to the road more, get off your cellular phone, and remember, think of the other drivers who are using the road. Police yourself. Don't wait for the police to be there to tell you what to do. Police or no police, do what you were taught to do, what the law requires you to do. And last but not least, I would hope that during this 24 season, the government will put in place those inspectors that we used to have in Beige and Brown that would have some teeth. And when we do nonsense, especially with our ZRs and minibuses out here on the road, they will be taken to the appropriate with the new amendment, I hope, with the demerit point system, and we will be able to get some of these peoples off the road from doing nonsense. During the year, remember, motorists, take care.
Okay, so we've had the parting shots. I want to thank them again for joining me. Mr. Roland Lowe, President of the Barbados Road Safety Association, Erskine Cumberbatch, the PRO of that organization, and Mr. Michael Brathwaite, the Managing Director of MakeItSafe, a new organization that's been started in Barbados. We're sorry that Mr. Kevin Wickham, the Vice President of the Black Knight Bikers Club, had some technical issues and was unable to join us. Let's hope maybe again we can take it up and find out from those bikers firsthand why, what, where, and how. I want to thank you, our audience, for joining and our callers for calling in with your questions. This has been the First People's Business for 2024. Here's wishing you an awesome new year, and here's hoping that you do continue to listen to our programs and call with your comments, questions, and queries. This has been the People's Business. I'm Wendy Burke.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.